I thought I'd grow old and pass on from this world while remaining ideologically quiet in the corner, but I'm learning very quickly how wrong that is. Well, hello there, and welcome to another edition of VitO Rambles, continuing our journey through hell to rescue the beloved Dillian. In the last video, we found the tree that houses the sword Grem. We are working to restore that sword so that we can take it to Hela and destroy her, while also rambling about life and things that are on my mind. Today, I wanted to discuss the topic of what is conservatism. With that, let's venture on. So while I was editing, I was listening, kind of going through my talking points. I noticed a comment I made, and I believe this was in part 2 of this series. I was talking about the cynicism I harbored regarding the fight at the school board and how I felt it was a little bit pointless. After thinking about it a little bit more, I understood where I was coming from. So not to say that I was in the right, but as I thought about it more, I realized I was really just coming off as a coward and a hypocrite.
I saw once a plague strike northern lands of ice. It was so terrible that not the oldest man among us could remember the like. Hundreds died. The sickness took nearly every person younger than 40 and many older. And where dying mothers gave birth, the marks of the plague were on the babes as they came out of the womb.
Where are we? I don't like it. This place feels... What is this place? This place feels... It's... creepy.
It made me realize something about myself.
It's like death.
Something that I've
Breathe.
been hiding. Not something that I've
Go towards it. He's in the house. Find him. Don't
not been proud of.
this time. Don't.
And it's that
He's disappearing. Follow him. Don't let him disappear. The air. Where's it gone? Keep going.
I've never really taken firm public stances.
It's a test.
And I've spent my life mostly just kind of coasting
Dillian will help.
and holding my convictions in private. So I've had stances, but they've always been
The stench of rot. She can
kept to myself
taste it.
in private.
Do you smell it?
I've never had my feet to the fire and been forced
Not
to
everyone.
choose a side. I've never had my feet to the fire and been forced to choose a side. And it got me thinking, like, I call myself a conservative, but what in the world does that even mean? And I mean, like, internally. That I was asking myself. Not a question of conservatism, as in political party or anything like that. But when I say conservative, what does that mean to me? And so erroneously, I've equated it just like many other people do. Fiscally, like good fiscal policies, less government control, blah, 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 blah. But I think that's wrong.
Now you have to find him. Quick, get to the house. Get to the house and finish this trial.
It doesn't finish until you get to the house.
Before he disappears, Senua.
You have to get in.
It's not that. It's not about fiscal policies. It's not about getting the government out of my hair. It's got to be about protecting something.
You can see it.
There's got to be a framework. There's got to be something that you are protecting. You are preserving. You are conserving. And that framework has to be centered around something moral, a moral good. In my case, in the case that I think applies, I believe applies best to all, is that it should fall under a biblical worldview.
She didn't.
A worldview that takes into consideration the good that is in this world and seeks to honor it. Now, the good that is in this world is not based on something good in us, but something good outside of us that we are made aware of, we are brought to the knowledge of, and therefore we choose to live and seek after that higher good, and that good is God, Jesus Christ. So with that comes a tradition, a value system, something a less bombastic way of life, something that is rooted in goodness. And again, it is a goodness outside of us. There is a standard. There is a way that it has been measured and it has been brought forth to us.
Senua, come to me. Where are you?
I'm here. I'm right here.
Are you in there?
Where is he? Find
Come
him.
out if you are.
You have to find him.
The rooms.
Focus.
The rooms. What's that sound? Dillian! They're coming for me!
Someone's calling you.
What should I do? Focus. Two more. Run! Run now! You're not safe here.
The light. The room.
Go towards it. Focus. Focus. I have to find one more. One dancing. You're not safe here. Run. Senua, run. You don't run. Have your sword.
You came through the wrong door. How are you going to fight?
Where's your sword?
To defend yourself? Is that
Whoa.
Senua! Senua! What happened?
They're blaming me for the plague. They say that I'm cursed. What if they're right?
How would they know such a thing? Are they gods? None of us are. They're just people. Good people, but they're scared. They're afraid of what they can't see. Like children scared of the dark. They make up stories to fill the void. That doesn't make them true.
What if my father was right?
You have to step out of this darkness. Let them see who you really are, like I have. You're not a monster.
Without you, this darkness has made me a monster.
It's done.
You did it.
But there's more.
All right, another down.
There's more.
Onward. When I look at the value system and what it's rooted in, and it being on a biblical worldview, I look at it in my life in the following layers. So, the first layer, kind of like the bottom, the foundation, is faith in Jesus Christ. The foundation, where everything else in my life stands on. This dictates how I behave in all avenues of life. And quite frankly, if I don't have this, then I have nothing to base my actions on. Like, what is the reason why I do things, why I behave in a certain way? Next trial. Let's see where this takes us.
I want to tell you a story about a god of the Northmen called Balder. The second son of Odin. He was beautiful, good, and wise. He was fair of feature, he spoke fair words, he gave fair judgments. Light shone from him. Only good things were told of him. Yet he was the first of the gods to die.
I've never been able to understand how someone can justify living a moral life without that foundation.
The bridge. You've come this far, but the bridge is broken.
There's no way you can fix it.
What do you do now, Senua?
And I know the arguments are out there. I've heard
What is it?
a decent amount of them.
Get closer. It's
And as much rationalizing
too close.
as is made,
What is this?
It's
again, I don't understand it.
It's another one.
Is fixed.
The arguments talk about just being a decent human being and kind of removing the historical context from what is defined as a decent human being, whether it's different philosophies. I've heard once the code of Hammurabi. I'm not very knowledgeable in that, but that's one thing I've heard about how that moral framework was just designed even before Moses and the Ten Commandments, all these things. And not that I disagree at all with the statements that, like, murdering another human being is wrong. But when I hear it come from someone with a humanistic worldview, I always wonder how they can say that. They want to have their cake and eat it too.
Dillian is in there.
Don't forget.
You can feel it. You need the runes to fight Dillian. He loves you. Calling you. Dillian. Dillian, we're here.
Dillian.
We're nearly here.
I ask myself, based on that, why is killing another human being wrong? And there's various answers, because they're, potential answers, excuse me. Is it because they're breathing creatures, because they have a brain and can reason? Is it because they look like me?
Go through it.
Not literally, but
What's behind the gate?
they're another human being. And these are good reasons, but there's more, or
What are you waiting?
it's based on more than just that. So, long story short, we have been made in the image of God, and that is the crux for why we can say
Curse cannot be.
murder is wrong.
Where is he?
Where's he gone?
We're in the wrong world.
He's not here.
She's in the
And more than just murder, this applies to other areas in which we deal with other human beings. And it's the reason why I am
Do you remember the one?
compelled and to behave appropriately when dealing with them, and through other areas of my life. So, for instance, work. Why should I work hard? Well,
He saved you. He saved
ultimately,
loves you. You owe him his
okay, again, another instance where there are many reasons, but the foundation being the God above, in one of them being that he has commanded me to provide for my family. That's, and in the instance of dealing with other people, I am to treat them respectfully. I am to submit to authority. I am to conduct myself in a manner that is bringing honor to God's name. And then there's the quality of output and the expectations that are in place for me. So we are called to do the most good for those around us, and having a good reputation at work is a fulfillment of that expectation. To have a good reputation is to show up on time for work. It's to work the hardest, be the most efficient, be the one that is being praised, not for your own sake, but ultimately for God's glory.
Remember, Dillian. Senua, you've got it.
Back to the dark world. Then there's the footprint we leave in everything that we come into contact with. And the allegory of the beach and the footprints and walking alongside Jesus kind of comes to mind, though the way I see it in that account, there are two sets of footprints and then there's one set, but I see it that the whole way is just one set of footprints. Christ carries me through all facets of my life. So, that being said,
Kill the things that are most precious to you.
Didn't deserve this.
There he is.
Where are you taking me?
He's up there.
we may never have an audience or be famous with millions of people. This video may never reach more than 10 people.
No, those cultists destroys
So I think the right angle. I do believe we have a captive audience in the spiritual realm. And the creator of the universe is seeing our every move. Everything we do is being written in the book of our actions. And so, how we behave and carry ourselves leaves a footprint, a written account in that book, in the annals of time, of history. And those actions, whatever you do, how you carry yourself, how I carry myself, is either pointing to
ever again.
my sinfulness in general, or it's pointing to God and his redemptive work. So it stands to reason that with this outlook on life, my actions must point to God in all facets, whether I'm being seen or not, whether at work, whether in my neighborhood, social gatherings, all of the above.
Alongside her friend, Dillian.
Strangled him.
She saw things no one else could. Patterns, shapes, movement. An intuition that made her an exceptional warrior. Friendship turned to love. But the shadow of darkness never let her go, and she was caught between two worlds. And her past. And Dillian. Her future.
two realities tearing at her soul.
You have no time for
And let
this.
me add a side note. I say all these things,
What if they are just to tire you out, to make you weak?
and I'm still in the process of working it out in my own life. So these are things that I've thought through, I am working through constantly, but I've far from attained it. There are days when I struggle greatly with being a good Christian. More so when no one's looking. And I have plenty of bad days,
You couldn't see the darkness within you.
but I have to remind myself constantly to get back up and keep striving. That's all I can say for that.
The way he stroked your
I suck, but I'm trying. That's the first layer, and so much more can be said about that, about all these topics. I mean, I'm just rambling. But then the layer above that, so moving on to the next layer of my life, is family. And again, everything ultimately is going to point back to God as how I see him is how my life flows. But with that, when it comes to the family, this is an area that I've had to really press on the gas when it's come to my maturity level. I'm constantly being whiplashed with my inherent selfishness and my call to self-denial.
He led you astray. You should have listened to your father when you had the chance. Why didn't you listen to him? His love has tortured you, and it tortures him.
What I thought I understood as my family has continued to expand,
Can you remember what?
but it turns out
Look what happened.
maybe not as much as I thought, is how much I would need to lower myself to lift my family higher and higher. How much of my selfishness I'd need to sacrifice, to kill and bury, to accomplish that which is more precious. I'd have to kill and bury my own selfishness, my own desires, to accomplish something much more precious than my pleasures here. That is a united family. And even in this week of recording this video, I've seen how much more I need to improve. And I'm not trying to be self-demoralizing, but I do want to be introspective. I have learned much, but I have a lot more to go. That being said, what I feel is I must join with my wife and raise these kids with the same outlook regarding the layers I'm discussing now. So my goal
What if this is pointless?
is not
What are you doing?
for my kids to be super successful and make lots of money. Sure, that's cool, and teaching them the value of hard work is great, but I really want them to see things as my wife and I do. We want to pass on our values, our morals to them. I want them to see life as precious as I do.
Alive and Dillian's dead. He doesn't deserve
I want faith in Christ to be the foundation of their life. And then they pass it on to their children and their children's children, and we populate the world with more believers. More people striving for goodness that is not found within themselves,
things that are
but is found
precious to you.
outside of themselves, and bringing that, cultivating that fruit, let me say. So that's what we're striving for, my wife and I, helping them realize their own excellence and their part to play. So then the next layer is community. This encompasses like church attendance, social gatherings, really overall relationships with those outside my household, and just surrounding myself with individuals that, whether directly or indirectly, are helping push me towards excellence. Excellence in myself, excellence for those around me. And again, whether they know it or not, it's not like we're meeting together to discuss our flaws and how we can be better. It's just through conversing with them, having a relationship with them, I really get something out of it.
After his father, a chieftain who believed nothing.
I probably should focus so I don't fall.
To be blind. She felt safe in Dillian's arms, glad to see the world through his eyes. Slowly, the darkness that had bound her so tightly began to unravel.
All right. Open arms. I feel like this is gonna end bad.
It's your fault. He's disappeared. You've lost him to the sea. He's gone. You've lost him to it. Just gone to the water. He's drowned.
Senua. Your father cannot understand your darkness. He cannot see through your eyes. No one can. My own father was born blind. Doesn't have the faintest idea of what the night looks like. The word dark to him means as little as the word light. So someone is afraid of the dark. Should we fix them by taking away their sight? Would you give up the beautiful world that you, and only you, can see just to be rid of your nightmares? Or is this the price you pay for the gift you have? A gift that makes you so special in my eyes. Just another part of the person I love.
I left for the wilds to protect you from my darkness. Because I love you. But it made it worse. I'm so sorry.
What if this is pointless? What if you're wrong? You've been fooled before, you could be fooled again.
You know the cliche, tell me what company keep and I'll tell you who you are? It's a cliche for a reason. I strive for something meaningful. I hope, really, ultimately, for something meaningful with the relationships I hold. You know, whether we're sitting around talking about movies or TV or life's problems and discussing how to go about it, having a certain perspective. I just want to come out of that interaction, that gathering, feeling like I gained something, even if it was just a hearty laugh. And I approach it in the giving sense as well. I want to give something valuable to other people, because then ultimately we're just wasting each other's time. I don't want to make them feeling worse off and vice versa. So with this layer, it's just about surrounding myself with good people, people I can love and have that reciprocated. Easier said than done. We're all busy people, you know, so I'm not saying
The Northmen say that their Allfather, Odin, gave
Let me
the
let-
fly in exchange for a
me
drink
let this guy
from
talk.
Mimir's well, the well of wisdom. In blindness, there can be wisdom. Only by giving can you receive in return. For this reason, I give my life and pass on my stories of the Northmen to you, Senua.
Where am I? I can't see. Who's there?
Can you hear me?
Dillian.
I'm right here. Can't you see me?
No. Help me.
Breathe slow.
It's the darkness.
Stay still. Empty your thoughts. Tell me what you feel.
The breeze.
Good. Then there is a way out.
I can't tell where it comes from.
Be aware of everything you hear.
It's really,
and feel.
really dark. And then there's the last layer, which really is just everything else. Anything that anything that isn't part of the first three that I've mentioned, which seems like a cop-out, but that's how I see it. God, family, community, everything else. And the kind of, I feel like I already kind of mentioned it, but it's just
Leaving you here.
how I behave in a manner pointing to God or pointing to sin. So whether I'm at the store, job site, vacation, wherever, my obligations, they remain the same as I navigate out of this darkness. And even in how I conduct myself on the internet, on this channel, even the way I am in front of this camera. I want to be the same in all areas. So the way I'm here, that's how I am in real life. I do not want to tarnish my good name, create negative content for clickbait.
The breeze.
Just be me. Ramble, like I do in real life. Having discussed these layers, I now think through my role in this life, in my life.
Follow it upstream.
They left this all behind.
I used to think that I could just hold to my ideals quietly and that would be enough.
Right.
I know what you're thinking. He's not really here. It seems there's no escaping the past in this place. So she's forced to relive it.
What is a house?
I thought I'd grow old and pass on from this world while remaining ideologically quiet in the corner, but I'm learning very quickly how wrong that is. So while I need to be bold in my convictions, the culture is drawing a line and forcing us to choose a side. There's going to be some who cower and go with the flow to retain some semblance of
It's not following me.
peace, normalcy, in quotes. But there's no peace when you go against your heart, if you're truly convicted. If you're not, you do whatever you can to not be inconvenienced. But when you have convictions that you need to hold to and you go against them, there will be no peace. There will be no joy. There will only be guilt and turmoil. There's only sorrow, and I refuse to be on that side of the fence. I have to. My kids depend on it. My wife depends on it. My soul depends on it. So, going back to the question at the beginning is, oh goodness, oh gosh.
Listen to the sound.
I'm scared too.
In and out.
Okay. Okay.
And out.
The question at the top of the video, what is conservatism? What does it mean? Oh goodness. Oh gosh. Is this gonna kill me? I feel like it will. I'm rambling too much and not paying attention. So with everything I just said, I realized my practice has been pitiful. My practice of conserving, of preserving, of fighting and pushing back. But I see that I need to be, look at my son right there. I need to be a real conservative, not a political one. So I need to stand up and fight for what's good, what's right. And not, again, not what's right and good by my standards, but by the standard bearer, Jesus Christ. The one who made this world and set the rules for what is good. And I have to add that it'd be nice to say that I thought of this on my own, but of course I didn't. As many good thinkers, I believe, will attest,
Don't turn back.
a lot of these things come from outside influence, outside reading, outside listening. So a lot of these things kind of have come about through different sources, but one in particular that really kind of brought it to mind is from a podcast I was listening to from Matt Walsh, or Big Daddy Walsh, if we're being proper. As I navigate. Wait, where's the light? And a few weeks ago, he was going on about kind of the same topic, but in the context of the school system and things like that,
I can see you too.
and fighting back against the culture. And that's what I've really held on to, that seed that he planted, that conservatives should be on the offensive and not on the defensive, fighting back against the culture's decline into depravity, and not just in holding on to these ideals in private.
Spend hours.
We have to be bold,
days even,
bold in our conviction,
within herself.
bold in our teaching, bold in our outlook, bold in our behavior.
You see me?
Yes.
Your eyes were open, but you were gone.
And when it finally let her go, she could be anywhere, with no memory of how she got there.
When it comes for me, I have no power over it.
But here, for the first time, someone was there to help.
But I heard your voice. You brought me back.
You found your own way back. All you needed was a little help. A little hope.
Killing you, it's so easy. They're taking your memories to torture you.
I think I've done all the
Disappearing one.
memories. And I saw the door, or the entrance to the sword, lit up, so I think that might be the next path, or the next step. So we'll go ahead and stop it here. I think this was a good chat. Now, in conclusion, I'm not proposing that we go out, or that I'm gonna go out in my Monday morning work meeting huddle. I'm gonna start shouting my beliefs, but I don't want to shy away from those topics, from those thoughts. So I need to stand. I need to stand bold. I need to be bold. I need to be a beacon for what is good what is right and not just coast, not just go with the flow and be ultimately pathetic and pitiful. We cannot afford to coast. We can't afford to be sheeple. People just kind of just going with the flow, and hey, as long as it doesn't bother me, you know, you can do whatever. You know, it's not my kids. It's not my house. Should be willing to take sides that are not popular. Not to be a contrarian, but to be firm in what is right. So, with that, we are off. Thank you again for joining. This has been another edition of VitO Rambles. Next one, we'll grab this sword and see where we go from there. But I hope you have a great day. I hope you have a great time. And as always, for what is right and what is true, be good.